First up tonight, Christian Gibbs is joining us from the Western Catskills of New York. Having released over 14 albums under monikers such as C. Gibbs, Lucinda Black Bear, He Arrived by Helicopter, and others, Christian Gibbs has been described by Rolling Stone as a country brother of Tom Waits. He began his professional career at age 21 playing guitar for the British band Modern English. After starting the pop-punk Morning Glories and a solo deal with Atlantic Records, Gibbs began writing and releasing albums that blur the lines between folk, psychedelic, and ambient. He also appeared in the Spike Lee film Passing Strange, an adaptation of the Broadway rock musical of the same name. Gibbs has opened for and shared the stage with The Pretenders, John Mellencamp, Little Richard, Son Volt, Mogwai, and many others. He's currently finishing his 8th album under the moniker C. Gibbs. Christian, thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm Christian. So nice to meet you.
All right. Okay, our next artist tonight is The Last City from Dallas, Texas. The Last City began in 2012 while Adrian and Lisbeth Palmer were living abroad in Hiroshima, Japan. Their self-described acoustic chamber pop sound is rooted in the duo's core of acoustic guitar and classically trained violin. Their self-titled EP is now available, as well as a live album of the record release show. They're currently hard at work on their next project titled Willfully Human, which will consist of an album, an accompanying book, and a few more surprises. Adrian and Lisbeth, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
How are things down in Dallas?
I mean, we have a good backyard, so okay for us, but for other people, you know, it's a little rough out there.
Yeah. So next up tonight will be Wyler Wolf. Wyler Diome Montour is an indigenous multimedia artist from Gungawegi, a Mohawk territory near Montreal, Quebec. Hope I pronounced that right. His practice is rooted in the honest portrayal of self-discovery and the confrontation between struggle and growth. Heavily influenced by the idea of chiaroscuro, he often operates and creates within the negative space afforded by shadow, both sonically and aesthetically. Wyler is currently working on a new album titled Water Be By My Bed. Wyler Wolf, thanks for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, next up from Los Angeles, California will be Amanda Brown. Amanda Brown has built a career out of provoking intense reactions in high places. After attending New York City's Fame School, she began working on the road and in the studio as a backing vocalist for the biggest voices in music: Stevie Wonder, Alicia Keys, Justin Timberlake, CeeLo Green, Adele, Jennifer Hudson, the list goes on. She also appeared on the television show The Voice, allowing her a chance to shine as a frontwoman. In 2018, she released her full-length debut album, Dirty Water. Amanda is currently based in Los Angeles and continues to work with artists such as Sarah Bareilles, Stephen Marley, Tyler, the Creator, as well as being heard on the Cynthia Erivo title track to the motion picture Stand Up. Her sophomore project is slated to be released in 2021. Amanda, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
Okay, and joining us from his home in Pound Ridge, New York is Ryan Martin. Ryan Martin is a Hudson Valley-based singer-songwriter with 2 albums under his name, 2012's For All the Beautiful Losers and the follow-up, Give Me Some Light, which was released in 2018 on High Moon Records. Ryan is wrapping up a new album, which he recorded with producer Kenny Siegel at Old Soul Studios in Catskill, New York. It will be out this fall, also on High Moon. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. It's great to be here.
Good. So one thing is I asked our performers to obviously prepare a song tonight, and we sometimes pick a little theme when we put these evenings together. And tonight, our theme was the idea of a universal perspective versus a personal perspective. Basically, as a writer, writing things in a contained personal way, but also the idea of them being interpreted by the audience, and sometimes the way those there's a play back and forth between those things. So that's something that we might come back to as we talk about these songs tonight. But enough from me. Christian, I believe we're going to hear a song from you
Okay. The song is called Devil's Water. And we'll just play it, I guess. See what happens. You can let me know what you think about it. I know what it means to me, but here it goes. She looked best dressed in white sheets and her white Mexican dress. She had the anger of a sleep, and I wanted it. If she drank the tea and won a sling, all for the thrill, well known. We took her to the ends of not a town now, on the toll road. If she were my southern belle, straight from Tennessee, Jackson, where she took me down to meet her fair, and I laid down in the easy chair. And I can't drink your devil's water, 'cause I know devil's water isn't good for me. And I can't pretend no longer, when all I wanna do is a holler to the grave. She wore the Southern Stars, Catholic skirt, knee-high nylon. She had those chocolate brown eyes, supersized like crocodile smile. Yeah, she was my cherry bomb. She kept me on for 10 long ones. Her baby fat was soon long gone as we laid down to the blonde on blonde. And I can't drink your devil's water, 'cause I know devil's water isn't good for me. And I can't pretend no longer, when all I want to do is a holler to the grave. And everyone around is dreaming inside out, and I just want to lay down and be merry like the bread. Something keeps me back a little longer, and all I want to do is a holler to the grave. Think about the days I've known, bury me to save my soul. Think about the fate I've known. Think about the days I've known, bury me to save my soul. Think about the fate I've known. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, Christian, you said you know what the song means to you. Anybody have any thoughts on what maybe a song might mean?
Just speaking for myself, lyrics are always the last thing that I absorb about a song. and so I have no idea what it means. I listened. I don't know. I listened to everything else but the words, and I was trying to listen to the words real hard because I know we're supposed to say something about these songs. It was a really great song. I really liked it, but I have nothing for you, man, except that.
That's like Jeff from Survivor, man. That's my favorite show. We watch that every night. We're actually supposed to be watching Survivor right now, and I don't know if you ever guys watch it, but Jeff is always like, "I got nothing for you." Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, just being honest, man, it was a great song.
Thank you, no problem.
Love that. I don't know, that harmonica fill in there is just it's filling a void in me too. I don't know.
Oh, thanks.
That's a badass bit of mouth harp going on.
As a violinist, I constantly have little harmonies and stuff going in my head, and that was definitely a good one for extra violin.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful. I mean, the line that kind of stuck out to me is think about the days that I've known. Were those the right words that you were singing?
Yeah, I think about the days I've known.
And so I guess it has a feeling of a sort of like longing reminiscence of something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what came to mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It was lovely.
Thanks.
Christian, Ryan brought up the sort of more about the music side of it and the structure of it. Could you maybe just talk a little bit, because there's 3 distinct sections in that, and maybe they on surface maybe don't fit together, but they work together so well. But there's like style changes and stuff. Can you just talk a little bit about how you put those sections together?
Yeah, I guess I don't like being pigeonholed into one type of genre usually, and that one's obviously a bit more folky and bluesy, I guess. And I guess like maybe more swampy blues, I guess, or country, whatever. And it's an open tuning, and so what I try to do sometimes with the choruses is like if the song's coming off too rootsy, or because I like doing ambient music with micro chords, and I like doing all kinds of stuff. I'll try to throw like a more ethereal chorus in there to offset kind of like the rootsy Americana-ness of the verse, you know what I mean? And I was a little self-conscious because Amanda here is a great singer and she sung with all these people, but I'm like, I'm hitting the falsetto part any minute, and I got this awesome singer here.
Oh, stop! You were great.
But yeah, I mean, I like to like, if you could like go up octaves for fun. For me, like I like to sing low, I like to sing high. And live, I think with a band, that song comes off way different. Like it's definitely got a more, we play it like that ending, instead of like doing it mellow like that, we just go into this like Zeppelin thing. Like with big hits. You know what I mean? So like, I think like whatever arena you're playing in, or non-arena, like this, like a living room. And I don't really play arenas that often, but I meant to say like whatever venue you're playing in, I think also influences the way you perform a song. And so yeah, I love writing bridges, and it's almost a challenge to see how much you can get away with. And then I'll write a song with just 4 chords all the way through, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's fun to just see where you can go and where you can come back to. So
yeah. And Christian, before we get you off the hook here talking about your song, we do have a question on Facebook from Lydia Diaz. She asks if the song has anything to do with the ravages of alcohol.
Definitely. That's pretty much what the song means to me, because it's called Devil's Water. So it's like I've gone through periods of my life where I over imbibed, you know what I mean? And then I've had, I'm kind of on a tamer path, let's just put it that way nowadays, right? But when I wrote that, it's kind of about going out. I mean, I don't know if I should give it away, but it's about going out with someone as you're trying to abstain from alcoholism, or take it a little easier from drinking a lot. And the person you're with, that you're in love with, is continuing to party, right? So that's kind of what that song's about. And going down to Ensenada and Tijuana and reminiscing, because I'm from San Diego, but I live in New York now. But so reminiscing when it still worked and it was still fun and the hedonism was rampant, but it worked for you. You know what I mean? And then kind of just, you're taking one path, but the person you're in a relationship with is like continuing to imbibe heavily, you know what I mean? In dipsomania. So, yeah, that's kind of, she hit the nail right on the head, I think, you know?
Yeah.
Good job, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that your mom? Awesome.
Yeah, that's my mom.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, she's
Right on.
intuitive, definitely.
I know for me, here in Devil's Water had me thinking not just necessarily liquor and alcohol and whatnot, just sort of self-destructive behavior, right? Like just going down a path you maybe know you shouldn't be going down, but it's kind of fun, you know,
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes it's fun to live vicariously through people. Like if you're like taking a break for a while or for a year, or a month or a week, and it's, you know, you can't do it yourself. It's kind of fun to, at first, you know, live vicariously through someone, you know? And so that's kind of, in the beginning it was fun. And then in the end it was like, okay, I'm not into this anymore. This sucks. You know what I mean? So.
all right. Well, thanks again, Christian. So that was
Yeah.
Devil's Water, right?
Yeah.
All
What's
right.
that? Yeah.
Let's swing over to Adrian and Elizabeth of The Last City. Guys, what do you have prepared for us tonight?
All right. This is a song currently called Western Shore, but for no other reason than that those were the most interesting lyrics, the first interesting lyrics in the song. So if there's a better title out there, totally open to that.
Yeah.
All right. Could have spent my whole life waiting on the sunrise. Eyes fixed on the western horizon, been drawn to the blood in the water, led many a lamb to the slaughter. All's fair in love and holy war. I just never knew what to do when violence felt like mercy. Blindness set me free. When questions felt like weakness. Oh, I worshiped and left unclean. But if I fight you, no one wins. Cause if I go down, I'm taking you with me. No more whitewashing my sins. No more taking these secrets to my grave. Because I will break before I will break before I will break before I bend the truth. I grew up reading between the lines of absolute truth. Crusty and suicide at best. Bet my soul on Pascal's wager. Ooh, I'm such a sucker for a savior. Anyone that can save me from myself. Cause I still don't know what to do when lying feels like mercy. When hiding feels like peace. When affection runs on whiskey. At least I chose my suffering. But if you judge me, no one wins. Cause if I go down, I'm taking you with me. No more whitewashing our sins. No more taking these secrets to our grave. Because you will break before you will break before you will break before I bend. God's own son couldn't escape our sin. So who are we to try firing lines. But if I fight you, no one wins. Cause if I go down, I'm taking you with me. No more whitewashing my sins. No more taking these secrets to my grave. Because I will break before I will break before I will break before I bend the truth.
Yeah. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, almost tipped the couch there.
Cool.
Living on the edge.
That goes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you.
I wish that I was in the room when you guys were playing that.
It is a little different trying to monitor myself. That's one of those songs, when I play hard, I really like to go for it. But when it's just the two of us here, I got to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it comes out in other moments where I almost tip the couch over. So,
Yep.
Yeah, great.
it was awesome. I felt like I was in the middle of like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like you were there's some anger in there, right, in that song, or
Yeah.
or maybe not. I don't-
Anger, passion.
Yeah.
Translates.
Not that it's a bad thing. I mean, the anger's
Yeah, for sure.
cool.
I think that's an interesting point, because going back to what we were saying in the beginning, the universal versus personal meaning, like when it's that anger, passion, a lot of times the listener might sort of apply it differently for them, what it means to them. And it's kind of holding it a little bit to the vest, right? Is that what you're saying, Adrian?
Yeah, it's just the whole question of personal versus universal. I feel like those kind of collapse into each other when it's an authentic emotion. And I try to write not from like the, looking back on a feeling, but trying to capture the intensity of it in the song and taking that 5 seconds before you take a breath and cool down and expanding that out. So I'm glad that translated.
Cool.
I have a question on Facebook for you guys about what are your stylistic inspirations?
Great question.
You
I mean, based on just the people that we listen to collectively, the songs that we end up covering the most, there's a lot of Damien Rice. Chris, we kind of, I think, have that same issue where we're like, what genre are we? People are like, oh, it's a violin. Obviously, you're folk. That's not always the case. We do try to pull, I'm a classically trained violinist. So we try to pull sometimes classical motifs. As far as songwriting goes,
yeah, I picked up the guitar because someone bet me I couldn't learn Neon by John Mayer. So he's kind of my benchmark as a guitarist. And through him, I got introduced to Hendrix. And so, especially in a song like this on the chorus, I was trying to do something where the guitar is playing rhythm, but it's also not keeping a consistent beat. You're hitting a chord here, leaving space and all of that. So somewhere between those two are the roots of it. And depending on what I'm listening to at the moment, other influences bleed in.
So did you win or lose the bet about Neon?
It was a bet that happened at a summer camp, and it took me 1.5 years to figure it out. So I think I lost.
oh,
But I think I won in the long run.
Yeah.
Guys, that was a really great song. I made a special effort to pay attention to the lyrics because of my dumb comment earlier. And it seemed like, with your lyrics, songs that are like kind of dense and philosophical like that are really hard to do. But I thought that you guys did that really well. So that was my comment on that.
Thanks.
Thanks.
We've, this is actually a less dense song for us, if you can believe it. We're getting better.
Yeah. No, it's really, it's I mean, that's a bad thing. That's, you know, it's good. For me as a listener, it I don't know, when there's so much being said, like some songwriters, they have the talent of saying so much with so little. That doesn't mean they're better songs, but I just noticed that this one was like kind of full of a lot of words, and to me that like pulls me in and just makes me kind of like dig more into what's being said lyrically. And so
appreciate that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I know one thing that I really liked is it felt like there were a lot of questions in there that that are like intentionally left unanswered, and this sort of like Ryan said, this like philosophical aspect where like there's all these questions. And I recently wrote something sort of in that vein, that like there will never be enough answers for all the questions you'll ever have. And I don't know, that came through in there. And musically also, you had this little breakdown where you almost had these back and forth sort of triplets. That was just wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really nice.
I feel unashamed. If you listen to Machine Gun by Jimi Hendrix, pretty much stole half the idea from that.
That's a good place to steal from.
Yeah.
So we have actually a viewer question on Facebook that kind of ties into what we're talking about. And the comment is that the song seems to have a religious undertone. And is that something that's inspired from personal experience?
Yep. There's that personal universal line there. We were both raised in South Carolina, like midst of the Bible Belt. My parents went to the same church from the moment I was born till last Sunday. And so that's kind of how I was raised. And as I've grown and changed, I kind of see Christianity as less of this strict religious thing, but more as a set of metaphors and language to try to describe something that's indescribable. And so I look at that as a language that I can use in my songs, and it definitely comes out a lot, because since it has such deep roots within me, I can express something on a deeper level and hopefully connect with more people, because we share this language. Regardless of where we are now, we still have this second religious language we can call on to describe something that's really ephemeral and difficult to nail down.
It's great. Thanks a lot again, guys. Again, what was the title of that? I know you said it was a working title.
It is currently Western Shore, which, as I was singing it just now, I was like, no, you said Western Horizon. What are you talking about? But if there's a better title out there, we are definitely open to it.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Next up, Wyler.
All right. Let me move this water so I don't knock it all over my computer. Yeah, so this has been an interesting situation. I prepared something, and then I decided to play something else at the last second. So I guess I'll be doing that. This one's called Heaviest Hand. It feels a lot like we're wasting our time as we search for light that we know we won't find. At the bottom of a glass of the crimson red wine that you poured
with your heaviest hand. You wait for the quiet, then you whisper you're fine. And you mention the loathing that you failed to confine. But it's hard to stand tall with no faith to define. And no backbone that holds it in place. You stumble across the Fifth Avenue, where the east turns to west and the rivers change too. And you head home to a liar that you've been seeing through, with less effort than it feels it should take. The thunder will call for the rain, and the skies will comply before jagged edge light. Before jagged edge light.
So Wyler, you said you made a last minute decision here to change the songs. I wondered what was the decision there?
I don't know. Leading up to this, I feel like I forgot every song I'd ever written in choosing what I might perform, and I just took one that I didn't perform earlier. So I figured I'd go with this one. Though, like I said, I'd prepared something because actually my final thesis was due today, so I'm done that, and that was a performance as well, just a few hours ago.
Bravo.
Oh, thank you so much. And I figured I'd play something that I didn't play there.
What was your thesis on?
Originally, it was supposed to be a music festival of all Indigenous artists.
Oh,
But
cool.
obviously, music festivals aren't the most viable at the moment.
Yeah.
So, in a sort of pivot of sorts, I ended up just focusing on my own record. I talked about that, and with the same intention of sort of developing a platform for Indigenous artists to sort of see that there are Indigenous artists out there, and they're doing what they want to be doing musically, and so too can the next generation.
Fuck yeah.
Cool, man. I like the reverb on the guitar, and you know how your voice has an ethereal quality to it as well, you know. So I thought that was a really good choice, you know, like the electric with reverb on it, had a really very consistent calming melody to it too, you know.
Yeah, I know that's something I go for a lot. That sort of calming is definitely a good word for it, and it's been a journey dialing in exactly the guitar tone.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know all about that.
Nah, I mean, sometimes I'm like you. I'm like, because I have my telly right here. I was like, should I play the telly or should I play the, you know? But I thought it was a great choice and sounded good, the guitar. And
Cool. Glad it came through.
cool.
Yeah, I really I appreciated the vibe, and then the lyrical imagery. I thought was really nice in that song, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it all went together really well. It like put me under the spell. So it's good, man.
That's the dream, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of had like, oh, sorry. It had a lovely like lullaby quality to it. I just sort of found myself kind of like closing my eyes and nodding for a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what the inspiration behind the song was, but that's how it made me feel when I was listening to it. So it was very calming.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of the inspiration for this song was maybe part of it's going to school in New York City and seeing everybody kind of dabble in trying to be New Yorkers and sort of giving into that hedonistic lifestyle, even if they know it's bad for them. But then, seeing close friends, make questionable choices, maybe with people they're with, people they spend time with, go out drink with, whatever choices are made. And it's just tough to see, loved ones really struggle and feel like completely helpless.
So it's the type of lullaby that you definitely want to sing to your kids at night.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We have a question on Facebook for Wyler. The viewer on Facebook got the feeling your song was about the balance between seeking inner strength and inner truth. What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I mean, I think it's not necessarily my inner truth. Like I said, I think it's written from the perspective of almost like observing people you're really close to. And I think I'm somebody that's felt for a very long time that I'm really comfortable with myself and who I am. And I don't want to say I'm like one of the dads of my friend group, but it's almost that type of thing. So I don't know, maybe it is a little bit of inner truth, or just maybe honesty with yourself and like what you want. Like the line in there of heading home to a liar that you've been seeing through with less effort than it feels it should take. And the sort of wondering at that point, while they are the liar, are you also the liar for lying to yourself?
Yeah. I want to throw out a question to the group. In terms of when you're writing a song and you have a very clear meaning of what it means to you, have you ever been truly surprised by the interpretation from a listener where it was just completely different? Has that ever happened to anybody?
Definitely for me, yes. Actually, on the song we sang, there's a line in there that says, "If I fight you, no one wins, because if I go down, I'm taking you with me." And it was literally just a line I freestyled as I was figuring out the guitar part. And then a friend of mine was like, "Whoa, you like broke down like the distinction of like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and you put their two philosophies together." And I was like, "Whoa, no." I was just kind of freestyling to make sure I had something to sing. So I've been surprised by it, but also a lot of times it's really cool to hear people kind of reflect back what I was thinking anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Absolutely. I don't know if I have a specific story, but it's always interesting to when people tell me what their perspective is on it, um, because maybe not a lot of the time, but I've definitely had experience with that. Things that are interpreted completely differently than what not in like a good or bad way, just differently than what I intended on it. And I don't know. I guess I keep that in mind. Like once I finish the song, as it goes out into the world, that I guess I'm like, it's like part of letting go of it at that point, because there's nothing that I don't know. You just don't have control over it. That's, I guess, something that I've realized in my experience with that. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that I mean, a lot of the songs that I have written, especially from my first album, were very, confessional. So um it, it a lot of them sort of stemmed from like a stream of consciousness of me sort of like either having a conversation with somebody about a specific experience or writing in my journal. But I will say that that's one of the things that I love so much about music and songwriting, is that it can mean something to you, and it can mean something else to someone else, but they're both still like valid, in some magical way. uh and so yeah, I mean, I have had maybe one or two experiences, like, after a show somebody comes up to me and says, oh my god, yeah, that song about like love and stuff, and I'm like, no, that was about the time that me and my ex-boyfriend broke up, but it's okay. It's all fine, and it's part of the reason why, for the most part, like, I will say a little bit about a song before singing it, but not too much, because I want to give the listener that opportunity to sort of explore whatever world that particular song takes them into. So yeah.
We have another question on Facebook. This is for the guitar players in the group, about if you prefer to record acoustic or electric guitar.
I like I think, like, sometimes if you're making an acoustic record, or it's fun, like if you're doing a song, just to be like, okay, I'm not going to have any acoustics on this, on this one song. Or I've had a producer before, I'm like, okay, let's overdub the acoustics now, and he's like, well, you've had acoustics on every song, like, why don't we just let the electric be by itself on this, so is the question like incorporating acoustics or electrics, like within the recording, or how you write a song, whether you write it with acoustic or electric?
I would say let's narrow it to writing, and maybe the difference when you sit down and write on the acoustic versus sitting down and writing with an electric guitar.
Yeah. Well, I took up enough time. I'll let someone else go. But my last 2 cents is sometimes with electrics, like, I like using loops and stuff. So like, I'll write a totally different song and it'll have less bridges, because I'll just get in a zone with 2 guitar amps, or sometimes 3 amps, like in a rehearsal studio, and then just do a loop and then try to do the live stuff stereo. And then it gives you like this, it's almost like producing the song as you're writing it, because you're playing like a lead part over it. And then it kind of needs less filler if you're writing with an electric, whereas when you're writing with an acoustic, it's more immediate. And you kind of, if you're, for the song to stand alone on acoustic, you kind of have to, not always, but it helps to have like different parts in a chorus. And so that's my 2 cents on that, but I like the question. Thank you.
Agreed. I mean, it's definitely tougher for that acoustic to stand alone. As far as recording goes, the initial question, I guess, I think it's a lot tougher to record acoustic really, really well. But I find myself writing just about everything on an acoustic. I think there's something just, I don't know, totally naked about writing there. And if you mess up on an acoustic, you messed up, and you got to go back, fix that up a little more, and maybe it's better next time around, maybe not. But I find it's just the realest way as a guitarist. I know a lot of people write on keys, but I don't know. There's nothing like an acoustic. I feel like getting that skeleton there, you can kind of build out in any direction. I know my demo EP that's out. So I guess the only thing I actually have out there, every song is built out around the skeleton of a live take of me in an acoustic. So everything's just like that spine and just tendrils from there.
Amanda, I wanted to ask you, because your writing process is probably a little bit different than what we're talking about. Can you talk a little bit more about, you were saying you write a lot of notes in your journals, and how did those grow into songs?
Yeah, I mean, well, with my first album, it was kind of like a culmination of a bunch of different things that I wanted to say that happened over, a longer period of time, because it was sort of my first endeavor. And I was like, oh, well, I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about that. And I do actually have an acoustic guitar that I like to write on, but I'm not playing it because I'm shit. I'll leave that to the professionals. But I do like to, I think there's something special about just being able to pick up a guitar and not necessarily plug it into anything, and just kind of like fuck around with a bunch of chords, and it just feels, you can walk outside and bring it outside, or you can, go to the park and sit and write. So I wrote actually a lot of my first album, that way, some ideas that came to me that I used to live in New York City, and I'd walk to the East River in Long Island City, and take my guitar with me and just kind of like strum out some ideas. But then on a couple of other songs that I wrote on that project, I collaborated with other people who were far better guitar players. And we sort of fed off of each other. It was either me saying a bit about what I wanted to talk about, and then us kind of, riffing back and forth in that way. But yeah, for this my EP that's coming out next year, it's a breakup EP. So it's all about that. That was the process.
Do you have a little something from that, or the first record that you want to share with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm gonna sing a song that has not been released yet, and I'm not gonna play guitar. I'm gonna sing it a cappella, but so you guys can like really hone in on the lyrics. But it's called From Here, and heaven sent holy love, or a waste of time, holding back, falling in, selling truth for lies. Can't keep doing this anymore. Oh, no, no. Promises make no sense when you're out of time. Wide awake, fast asleep as we walk the line. Can't keep doing this anymore. Oh, where do we go from here? Been standing still for years. I just wanna wake up, don't know how to save us. I just wanna hold you, taste you, love you. Where do we go from here? Been standing still for years. I just wanna wake up, don't know how to save us. I just wanna hold you, taste you, love
Right on.
I didn't want to sing the entire thing because I felt like That might be a little bit too much for people to just listen to me singing the entire time without any music. I feel like you can kind of get a good sense of the context of the song, or at least I think so.
No, it sounded great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, I think I would have enjoyed the whole version just as well as the abridged one. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Well, it's coming out in the next couple of months, so you'll be
Well,
hearing
I'll
its
check it out then.
full form.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, I love the chorus. You know, like it's very catchy and it's very visceral. You know what I mean? Like touching on the senses. You know what I mean?
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, the theme that we discussed and sort of this personal versus universal idea. And I haven't actually performed that. I've only really just performed it in small venues live, with either a guitar player or a pianist, but I've never performed it so that people in this way can hear it. But I just thought, that one particular song who I wrote with this very wonderful songwriter, her name is Jessica Vaughn. I came to California, just to give you guys a little backstory. I hope that's okay. I can talk for hours, so just let me know when to stop. But I came to LA and I was having a very difficult time with my last relationship that I was in, and we were together for a very long time, or almost 6 years. And I came to Los Angeles to do a bunch of songwriting with various songwriters and producers. And I came into this one session, I was just felt completely drained of all of my energy. She was like, well, what do you want to talk about today? Something upbeat. And I was just like, I have to get this out of me, this feeling of, not being to the point where you just don't know what to do in order to repair, your relationship. And so this song sort of came out of there, and there are all of these kind of opposites in the song. It's like heaven sent, holy love, or a waste of time. But then the chorus comes along and it's like, where do we go from here? Been standing still for years. And I thought, like, oh my God, like we're in quarantine and we're stuck and there is not that much that we can do about it. And it feels a bit helpless. And it made me think of this song, even though it doesn't necessarily, the verses don't necessarily mean, have anything to do with us being, in quarantine. I just felt like the chorus could potentially be relatable in terms of where we are right now. And so that's why I chose it. And it's really happy.
That's awesome.
So, Amanda, we have a couple questions on Facebook for you.
Okay.
The first one is, what came first, the lyrics or the melody?
Ooh. I feel like they kind of came one after the other. Like we started with a guitar line and a melody for like one section of the song, and then worked on the lyrics for that, and then came up with a melody for another section of the song and worked on the lyrics for that. And that's not necessarily my usual process. Usually for me, melodies come first. I think, being a singer first, I always just kind of am drawn to, singing a bunch of nonsense and finding the melody first. But this kind of, went back and forth, and we played a little bit of ping pong with this one.
Yeah, and for the rest of the group, I know it's not always the same, but in that sort of order of music, melody, lyrics, how do you guys handle that in your writing usually?
Great question. I think for us, a lot of times it ends up, I usually end up coming in later, so I don't know why I started talking. But I come in with the instrumental stuff, but there are times where we like decide, okay, today we're going to write, and then we both like sit down and figure out like what melodies are coming to mind, what lyrics are coming to mind, and how can we put them together.
Yeah, I made a rule for myself a while back that if I write lyrics, I always try to sing them. And if I write a guitar part, I always try to come up with a melody for it. And if I come up with a melody, I try to sing some lyrics to it. So there's always some connection. Otherwise, I feel like I have a lot of ideas that just get caught in one place. So whichever one comes first, the other one I'm making myself follow it so that I can start some momentum towards making it a full song.
Yeah, I really like that point, the sort of forcing yourself to fit one into the other. Because I picked up guitar pretty late. Like after I finished high school, I was kind of like, well, I really love music. Why am I not playing? And then just started playing guitar. But leading up to that, I'd done all kinds of poetry writing, and so I had, you know, mountains on mountains of pieces of writing, some of which have become songs, a lot of which haven't. But for me, it's like having these words and then having them as a roadmap to kind of force them into a song, and then just altering them as I come up with the melody that feels right for it.
Also, I wanted to say, Amanda, I love your voice, and it was breaking my heart as you were singing. It was so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. I know it's such a sad song. And it's so funny because I'm like usually a very jolly person. And then I always tend to write all of these miserable songs. So, but thank you.
I mean, Amanda, I know for me that for me, writing's almost like my therapy. So I get all my sadness out there, and then people see me and they're like, "Oh, you're such a cheery guy," and I'm like, "Well, listen to the lyrics."
Yeah, no, it's always kind of like in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh man, I've had all of these, crazy, wild, sad experiences to write about. And who knows, come album 3, like I may just be, my boyfriend and I are very happy at the moment. And I'm just like, oh shit, like it's going to be a lot more work.
We have a few questions. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to compliment Amanda again. I really liked, I think it was in the chorus, you had this, it felt like there was, the lyrics were, it felt like you were longing. It's like this conflicting emotions of like longing for someone, but at the same time, like not being able, like knowing that, I don't know, do you know what it's like? It's like the longing for someone and wanting to have it work, yet knowing that it's impossible, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what it is. It's just this feeling of we've tried everything that we possibly can, and or at least I felt like I've tried everything that I possibly could and pushed myself, to the limit in order to try and make it work. But yeah, I'm sort of saying I'm at a breaking point, and I'm kind of standing here, with my heart in my hands, just saying like, I don't want this to be the end, but like it feels like there's really nowhere else for us to go,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's like the most heartbreaking part of it for me. So
it's pretty depressing.
Well, that's.
I feel so much better though now that I've like gotten it out. It's so amazing, like when you write a song and you're feeling this kind of like anxiety, or even just like it doesn't feel right until you've like completely expressed whatever it is that you're trying to say, and then you do, and then it's just like, oh God, I just needed to like get that out and talk about it in a song. It's probably why a lot of people don't like dating musicians and songwriters.
I have no idea about that, but no, I do. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, on the topic of the music or lyrics, which one comes first? I'm always kind of mystified by people who are able to write poems or write lyrics and then put music to it, because I just have no idea how to do that. To me, it's always like a melody that comes first, and then usually some sort of phrase that like anchors it, and then maybe there's an idea that evolves around that, and that's where that's how all my songs are written. But like some of the great writers who I love, be it Bob Dylan or Townes Van Zandt, or I think even Jeff Tweedy, somehow they're able to like take the words that are written and like hear the music to it. And to me, that's always just like mystified me. I wish I could do it, but alas, I've failed. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, my process is always just music first, and then sometimes the lyrics come real quick, and sometimes it takes months or even years. So it's all very painful. All right.
So we have quite a few questions on Facebook about this idea of the interplay between the lyrics and the melody and the chords. I think we've done a good job of everybody kind of giving their own perspective on that, and it's not really ever a straight line. There is one new idea that I wanted to throw out there. The idea of finding new ideas, and in the context of, writing something new, or you maybe go back and find something that wasn't working previously and bringing that back, or revising older ideas, actually pulling things from the past and working that into new ideas. Is that something that has ever been fruitful for anybody?
All the time. Yeah, that's kind of my bread and butter in many ways. I have on my phone it's got to be about 100 pages long of just odds and ends as far as lyrics go, or even just a chord progression. I have a bad habit of recording videos of melody ideas instead of sound, so my phone runs out of memory every 2 months. But oftentimes when it's time to write a song, I'll just go through and read through or listen through stuff, and a lot of the time it just starts this process of, oh, that could work if I change the key. I like that lyrical idea that kind of fits this. And yeah, most of what I write starts from an idea in the moment, and then it kind of reaches back and creates this web that eventually becomes this kind of puzzle I can piece together in the end.
Yeah, I relate to that too. I remember I was driving in my van somewhere, and I had a stranger with me, and I said, "Hold on 1 minute," and I took my voice memo, and I just started humming, this bridge that I had to like an old song, and he looked at me like I was crazy, but I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry about it," And then amazingly, like they fit when I got home, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, like I sometimes I'll obsess on a song and it won't finish itself, you know what I mean? Like I hate those songs where you're beating them to death. And I remember I was working on this one tune, and I kept trying to change keys and make it fancy and everything. And then pretty soon, like the bridge that was just the small part of the song became a totally different song. You know what I mean? And then I just kind of threw the rest of the other song away. And I like it when that happens too. Like when you just kind of let go of your will. You're like, I'm gonna make this song, and it doesn't want to be written. You know what I mean? So like the bridge becomes a different song, and then when you're in a different, I think going for walks or just going on the train or the subway in New York City or whatever, man, like transportation, I think really elicits, inspiration. It just, if you're stuck writing songs, I think just moving around helps the juices a little bit. That's it for me.
I don't often write actual like fully enclosed songs, but every once in a while I do, and it's normally a feelings first on an instrument process. I play piano as well, and so if I'm feeling something really, really strong, I tend to go to the piano and just play it. And then there have been times where I've like sang something completely nonsensical, but it embodied the feeling of whatever it was. So I have random memos of stuff like that on there, and I'll go back and listen to it and be like, what was I trying to get across here? But every once in a while it does turn into something else, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Amanda, go
All
ahead.
right, all right, thanks. No, I was just gonna say that, yeah, like voice memo is like my bestie. 'Cause I will just pull out my phone, and even if it's, like a 3-second little hum or something, I record it, because I have had so many moments where I've had an idea and I'm like, oh, that's really good, but let me do this one thing first. And then it's just completely gone. So I do try and record like every little idea that I get. And it's interesting because when I moved from New York to LA a little bit over a year ago, it was just like, I've lived in New York City my entire life. And so it was just such a change for me. And I started dreaming melodies, which has never happened for me before. And it hasn't actually happened since, but it was just sort of when I was writing this EP, I was dreaming melodies and songs, and I would like wake up in the middle of the night and record it. And one of the songs that's on the EP is a melody that came to me as a result of me waking up and recording it on a voice memo in the middle of the night. The rest of them didn't make it, but you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, those are pretty good odds, honestly. I know for me, I revisit a lot of old stuff I've written, and like I said earlier, I picked up guitar pretty late. So I've heard people talk about the sort of gap between your taste and where you want your music to be, and it's really easy to get stuck in that space between, because the whole idea is that you have good taste, right? Objectively, your taste is the best for you. But like making that happen with your own music has this disconnect from it. So I think I'll revisit some stuff for when I like couldn't play to a certain level on guitar, and then revisit and say like, oh well, let me throw an E add 9 in there, that'll work, and then kind of just restructuring songs. Actually, the one I played today was a completely different song when I originally wrote it, and then when I went to record it for the EP, I just realized it didn't work, and fittingly enough, changed it to an E add 9. So that became a completely different song. Actually, to go off the sort of voice memo idea, the title track of the upcoming album / partially released album, Water by My Bed, I actually jumped out of the shower and just hit record on a voice memo and just sang this guitar melody, and then did another recording for this sort of vocal part that I was thinking of. And then the next day I went in the studio and I was like, right, there's that horrible off-key recording, but I know what I was trying to get done there, and then turned it into something.
A lot of shower recordings. I have those too.
I like the driving recordings. For some reason, driving always brings it out.
So I have a question for the group. Would you guys say that you look at songwriting as the act of it is this thing you sort of have to wrestle with the songs and sort of work at it until you chisel it away? Or is it more you just have to get out of the way sometimes and let the song be what it wants to be?
That's a really good question. I think that it can be both, Sometimes it's about beating it to death and working at it. And I mean, I have songs that I've rewritten the lyrics to 10 times or more, and I still don't think they're right. And some of them have been recorded, and I still sometimes think they could be better. And then sometimes it's just about, it's like that one moment of inspiration that comes to you, and it all just feels really right. And that it doesn't really have to be changed much from like the rough draft, like first kind of like big, like, outpouring that comes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a right way or a wrong way, but in the end, I'd much rather have a song written that I thought was, you know, at least like worthy of being out there than to like have this thing that just because it didn't come so naturally, you know, never becomes like a fully written song and is never recorded, you know. So I find myself a lot now, yeah, like really kind of chiseling away and just like rewriting and rewriting, you know.
Yeah, I would say that for me, you know, it varies too when it comes to my personal songwriting. But I've also been kind of working a bit in the sync and licensing world and writing songs for that. And that's a completely, it's just an entirely different beast because it's not personal. You know, it's like you go in and you could potentially find ways to make it personal, but in the end, it's like you're pitching a song for a very specific brief and you have to get it done usually in a day. And those I almost find sometimes could potentially be a bit easier because there's less emotional attachment for me. And so I am just like, oh, okay, yeah, we're writing about going to a party. Great. Whereas when I write more about personal experience, because of the emotional attachment and because of how I'm looking to say something, it might take a little bit longer. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, I've definitely found there is a discipline to it. But one of my favorite ideas is one we picked up on while we were in Japan. We were lucky enough to study the language a little bit. And they have this idea of like there being a space between two people. It's not like two bubbles and two personalities interacting. There's this neutral space in the middle where you both give your input and help build something special that only exists between you, and then you disappear and do it with someone else. And so that's kind of how I approach songwriting at this point. There's a discipline to showing up and listening, but you also are playing off of what you hear and playing off inspiration. So it's just a disciplined patience almost. You can't force it. I can't force it. I used to be able to, I can't anymore. But you kind of have to just wait. And then when you see that moment, join the dance and help it become what it needs to be.
The
Yeah,
idea
I
is a
think
little bit woo-woo, but I definitely think that there's like some kind of universal unconscious, and if you get the idea to do something, then you got to do it and channel that right away, because otherwise it'll go somewhere else and find another person.
Christian, you had a comment?
I'll just chime in a little bit. I think I touched on this with you in a different forum once. But yeah, I think if you have deadlines, I think Amanda touched on that. You know what I mean? Like that can affect like how soon a song gets finished. And I remember I had a kid, my first kid, and I just was gonna do a European tour, and I had to finish this record. And I remember just like they had this thing where you just rock the baby with your foot. And I just remember like finishing the songs because there was a deadline and not recording them perfectly and letting other people mix it without hearing the rough mixes completely. I mean, I kind of just let go because I was like totally involved with something else. You know what I mean? Whereas now, I think, I've been self-releasing a lot. So there's no one just saying, hey, when's that song finished? So it allows you to be a perfectionist, which isn't always a good thing sometimes. And then when you collaborate with someone, it totally makes you just finish the song because you have to think about someone else, and they're not going to wait around forever. They're going to be like, hey man, let's finish this song. What's going on? So I kind of miss deadlines. I think you touched on that, Ryan. I think about, you could set the release date in iTunes or something, and then it makes you finish the song by a certain time. But yeah, and I also agree with Ryan, the other Ryan Martin, about, I think it could be both. You know, I think some songs are written in like, you know, an hour and a half, and some songs are written in 15 years, literally, you know, because you change them and you're perfectionist about them, or it's not the right, it doesn't fit on the record you're doing at the time, and then, but you revisit it. So yeah, I think it's good to have deadlines, and I think it's good to just try to finish stuff, and if it's not working, just go on to the next one, you know?
Yeah, I hear all that. I guess what was coming to my mind was just not to be too precious about it all, you know, because it's easy for me to get so attached to the idea that this thing has to be of like a certain caliber that I have in my mind, you know, whatever standards I think that I have. And and there's a big benefit, I think, to just letting go of that, and not being so attached to what you think it needs to be, and letting it be what it is, which is, I think, what you said in the beginning, Ryan. But that was kind of the word that came to my mind, is just not to be so precious about it, and to, you know, sit down and write it. I don't know, just finish it.
Well, Ryan, you've been patiently waiting here, and appreciate that. You have a song for us tonight?
In fact, I do. Surprise.
Yeah, it's like we rehearsed that. Yeah.
What's that?
It's like we rehearsed that transition.
Right, yeah, exactly. I happen to have my guitar right here. How do you know, man? I got a song for you. Yeah, so this song is called Real Human Being. It's on my last record called Give Me Some Light. Love does not forgive, does not care who wins. It is only what you give. Now plead with you, my soul. Do not let me go. I am here forevermore. Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. Come on, give it one more try. Stand up and tell them why I was given life. It is all I can do. Fear is what tortures me. It wants company, so it clings to the dream. Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart won't stop. Come on, give it one more try. Take off your mask for me. All I want to see is the real human being. I know there is suffering, but it's all part of being a real human being. Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. Come on, give it one more try. Come on, give it one more try. Come on, give it one more try.
All right.
Cool.
Lovely.
Hell yeah.
That was great. I noticed a lot of those themes of the universal yet personal in there. I really liked the line about fear being what tortures me. I was like, oh, I understand that. And then that it wants company. That was very clever, and I felt that deeply.
Yeah, the same line really resonated with me. I tried to write it on my hand, but the pen didn't work.
Oh.
So I just kept repeating it, at least until you said, I know there's suffering, but it's all a part of being, and just that universal and personal truth. I don't know. I love that. I love the wavering vocal runs in there. Those are great.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I thought that was beautiful. Your voice sounds great. Your guitar playing was really lovely. And it's so funny because the fear line stood out to me as well. And it's crazy because like I had to put my other ear in because I don't know what's happening with my internet connection, but like I wasn't catching all of the words. But to me, I felt like you were kind of saying, you know, either to someone else or to yourself maybe, to learn how to accept parts of yourself that maybe aren't all that pretty, because we're all, you know, the same, and we all have parts of ourselves that aren't pretty. Right. That's what I gathered from it. I don't know if that's what it means to you, but I thought it was lovely.
Sure, thank you. There's some of that in there, yeah.
Yeah, I was gravitating towards like the interplay between the vocals and the guitar. You know, I thought it was really nice, man. And like you mentioned, the lyrics popped out to me, you know, towards the end of the song. But I'm definitely, you know, when a performance is pretty good, I just get caught into that, and sometimes I don't really pay attention as much to the lyrics, like you were saying earlier, you know. And then because I'm just like, when I write songs, I write the music first, you know what I mean, and phonetics, and then I write the lyrics later. But yeah, I was I like the interplay between the guitar and the vocals. It's nice.
Thank you.
Ryan, I had a question about the sort of the use of repetition in the, especially towards the end. Do you feel like if you repeat a line or you repeat a line that was from the song earlier, that it can slightly change the meaning?
I don't know if it changes the meaning, but it sometimes it does have just an effect, you know, like a poetic effect, you know, if like it's all part of being a real human being, you know. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, or if there was a different lyric you were referring to. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the things that you could do about songwriting. You have a refrain, and each verse kind of gets back to that refrain, but it gives you a new perspective on what it is you're saying every time, you know. I suppose that's like, a tool of the craft.
Yeah, I like how you're doing towards the end. Is it give it one more try, or give me one
Right.
more try?
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of line that if you're saying that 3, 4, 5, 6 times, it definitely, it starts to magnify,
Yeah, right. And exactly. And even at the end, it tags it 3 times, and the melody changes each time. And yeah, I guess I do believe in the power of repetition, I try to say more with fewer words, just that's my style. I think that's the way I write, and so I think that lends itself a lot to having a lot of refrains and songs.
I have a question. It's gonna be the most basic answer, but what kind of guitar you got there?
It's a Gibson. Yeah, so not a guitar guy. J29.
Uh,
It's like an old 45. Is what the Folksman, kind of a classic folk guitar, and this is like the modern model.
yeah, well, it's got that nice punchy sound in there.
Oh, thanks, man.
Well, guys, thanks. I appreciate everybody performing tonight. I just want to go back, and anybody on Facebook, if you have any last questions for our songwriters, anything we want to circle back. I think there were a few questions that I missed. If I just go back here a little bit, I think, Amanda, you touched on this a little. Can songwriting become a little easier the more you write, like exercising your muscles? Does anybody have a response to that?
Yeah, I do. No. I think like I just to maybe follow up that, I think like in any craft it's important to like keep doing it and like commit time to sit down and at least like allow the channel to open so that things can come through. But I think that no, I don't think it's like I don't think it's necessarily something that you get better at, just because you've done it more.
I think there's things you could fall back on, like, you know what I mean? Like if you're stuck with a song, so like obviously doing it, the more you do it, you're going to have like little tricks you can pull out of your sleeve. You know what I mean? Whereas if you just started writing songs, you might not be able to do it, but that could also be a hindrance too. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the more learned you are, like I've encountered people where they just started playing guitar, like they're a violin player and they just started playing guitar and they're playing like fifths on the bottom all the time. And I was like, what's that chord you're doing? And it's because they're so new to the instrument. You know what I mean? That I think that helps also to, it doesn't really answer the question that the viewer said, but like playing instruments you're not very good at, you know what I mean? Like you'll just make mistakes. I think mistakes are great. And but I think, like if you need to, if want to go to like the minor key or the relative minor, or not to get too dorky with songwriting, but like stuff like that helps if you've done it a little bit, but I think it could also, I think there's a newness and a freshness to someone that doesn't know all that stuff too. So.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, like your initial just straight up no. I laughed at it at first, but then the more I thought about it, it was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if the songwriting is improving or my observation of myself in that space and learning how like some of the craziest, weirdest chords I ever made was when I didn't know music theory. I just was trying to see what sounded decent. And so I guess you could say it's improving songwriting, but more than anything, I've gotten better at seeing my own patterns and seeing how they get in my own way, and then finding ways to shock myself out of that, so that if I know I'll get stuck if I go on this route, I can catch that before I just feel overwhelmed and figure out what I can do to shake things up and maybe find inspiration in a different method.
Yeah, I think we can get technically better at our crafts, but I think as soon as you get good at songwriting or whatever, you're going to end up coming up against the wall and having to do something completely new, and then it's going to be difficult again.
I kind of strive to be just good enough to get what I want to say across, and I think I'm not somebody that knows really any theory, and I think a lot of it is or maybe not no theory, but especially playing in a band, I learned a little bit of stuff to incorporate, like maybe like talking about going to like a relative minor or something to switch something up. And so just little touches like that, but still wanting to throw an interesting flair in there. I'm really scared of like losing the magic of songwriting and music by understanding it too much. And so when I say I want to be just good enough, we talk about like making mistakes on instruments you don't know. And some of my favorite things I've written have been on instruments I'm not totally familiar with. I'll go pick up a banjo and say like, oh, well, I don't really know what's going on here, but I can make certain things sound all right. And then, go to piano, and the most recent song I wrote was on piano, and I would not by any means call myself a pianist.
Yeah, I think for me, there are definitely tools that I have learned along the way from when I first started writing songs to now. And that sort of may potentially help the process and have it feel a bit easier for me. But, then I tomorrow could sit down and try and write a song and it's shit. So I think that, I don't know that if you can necessarily become better, but I'm sort of just reiterating what everyone else has already said, in that, like, there are certain tools that you learn that may perhaps become go-tos in terms of your songwriting process, but I don't know that they necessarily make you a better writer. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I think some of the worst stuff I've written has been in this past year. And by the same token, some of the best stuff I've written has been in this past year. And I think there's aspects of every year that are my best and my worst. And it's, I think, just a process of, I'm wondering if it has to do with almost like gambling odds. Maybe if you write songs more, you're logically going to come across more good ones.
I like that. I like that you said that, but I don't think there's any like theory to, like there's no like way to crack this. It's just it's a maybe more hard to understand.
Yeah, maybe there is no answer to this question.
I mean, yeah, that's it. Like, I believe that this is like at its core, it's, it's not, there's no like one theory that you can have for writing songs. It's maybe a more mysterious process, which is one of the things I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some bands I love, man. Like when their song comes on the radio, and then I'll buy the record and I'll be like, is this the same band? You know what I mean? And I'm going to out myself. I love Boston's More Than a Feeling. I mean, when I hear that song, and I was like, now I'm going to listen. I have a 2-hour drive. I'm going to listen to Boston for 2 hours, because when More Than a Feeling comes on, I have to sing it at the top of my lungs, right? And then I'm listening to it. I'm like, what? Who is this band? You know what I mean? There's a couple other ones that are good. But yeah, so I think that ties in. I mean, who knows? Everyone's different, right? There's bands that have every song on the record is great. Songwriters, most of them are good. And then there's a lot of filler out there, so.
I think in the end, it's like music is so subjective too. You know, like you can write a song and someone loves it, and then another person's like, "That's shit," you know. So I feel like as long as you are being honest to yourself and to whatever story it is that you're trying to tell, and do the very best that you can, then it's just like, all right, like I'm a songwriter, and that's all there is to it, you know.
Hell yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've come a long way to as Ryan said, there's basically no way to crack the code of songwriting. But I think, you know, I really appreciate what everybody shared tonight, and I appreciate the viewer questions. Been great, and everybody who's watched along on Facebook Live. I think I covered all the questions, or we've covered them in one form or another. But there was one that I missed, and I want to give you guys a second to think about it. And it was about influences, but it was specifically about influential songwriters. And so I'm going to phrase this a little different. So we're going to go around, and you guys please plug your website, any upcoming albums, wherever folks can find out more about your music, and leave us with one or two songwriters that if somebody wanted to get into songwriting would be a great place to start. Okay, so let me give you guys a second to think about that. I'm just going to double check our Facebook feed, and then we'll go around the room. Okay, thanks. Okay, I think we are caught up. Christian Gibbs, where can people find out more about your music, and let us know about your picks for songwriters?
Oh man. Well, we have a song called Rule of 19 on a Red Panda recording Bandcamp about the whole COVID. That's like a topical song, you know, like about what's going on, COVID-19, and we called it Rule of 19. And you helped me out with that, Ryan, and I had a big part in that, obviously. So I would check that out at Red Panda Recording. It's like an example of writing a song to you know, an idea or a very specific idea, which is not how I usually write. And then I have a song called Armageddon, which is kind of funny, on cgibbs.bandcamp.com, and it was finished before all this crazy stuff happened, but I thought it was fitting, so I put it out really quick. I mean, as far as songwriters I'm influenced by, I don't know, man. I like so much stuff. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, to be honest, but I really love Elliott Smith. I think he's a good contemporary songwriter. I mean, he died, of course, but I thought he was one of the songwriters that woke me up, you know, in the last couple decades that I really dug. I'll just leave it there. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Christian. Adrian and Lisbeth, same question to you guys, and where can people find out more about your music?
You wanna go first?
Sure, I'll go first. As far as songwriting goes, on the one hand, one of my biggest influences is Damien Rice, who has no timeline, has no deadlines. He kind of just disappears. From what I hear, he might write 40 songs and then choose 5 or 10 to put on an album or something like that. So that's definitely someone to study for a very simple but following the muse type of approach. And I guess the other one's kind of a curveball. One of my biggest influences actually is Eminem. There's a discipline to how much music he puts out and how dense it is. And you can tell that he approaches it like it's a science, like it's an equation to be solved, and somehow always finds a way to express what he's feeling at that moment and continually be present with himself as he's creating music. So two very different approaches, but both of those are big influences for me.
Yeah. And as far as finding us, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and also Patreon if you're interested in receiving behind the scenes and updates about upcoming projects. Patreon.com/thelastcity. But if you just want to follow along for the regular stuff, we're on Instagram at The Last City. We're on Facebook at The Last City. We have a big project that we're getting started with called Vocally Human. We're recording our single remotely with a studio in Boston. They're sending us some mics and stuff, and fortunately we have a home studio here, so we were able to make it happen. But we have a newsletter, sign up for that if you're interested in learning more about that project. So yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Wyler, same question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with the songwriters. I mean, a few have been really significant to me. Christian brought up Elliott Smith, hugely important contemporary songwriter. I'm big fan of Pine Grove at the moment. Evan Stevens Hall writes some incredible lyrics. Scott Hutchison, who passed away almost 2 years ago now, of Frightened Rabbit, probably my favorite songwriter of all time. And Nathaniel Rateliff. But his solo stuff, I mean, his band stuff is great, but his songwriting on his solo stuff is really impeccable. And maybe Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie. And then you can find my stuff on wylerwolfmusic.com or upcomingwylerwolf.com. Either one directs to the same page, apparently. I'm new to the whole web design thing. That's how it works. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, I suppose. But the website would probably be the best to go right now. I actually just put up 10 songs on there. So in a way, I've released an album, but it's a sort of pre-release, unfinished collaboration. There's a form anyone that listens to it can fill out to sort of give feedback on what they're thinking of the music and its direction. And I urge anybody watching to check that out, listen to the music, let me know what you think. And then we'll get into the post-production off these rough mixes.
Great. Well, thanks again, Wyler. Amanda, how about you? Where can people find out more about your music and influential songwriters?
In regards to influential songwriters, whew, man, that's so tough. Because for like the first, 16, 17 years of my life was living in a very strict, like, church environment, and we didn't listen to secular music, as it were, because I thought I was going to go to hell. But I went to a high school where I started venturing into like jazz and classical music, and then sort of later discovered rock and roll. But it's so funny because when I was writing my last album, I was listening to a lot of Sheryl Crow, like early Sheryl Crow, and a lot of Joni Mitchell, a lot of Paul Simon, which is very different from the stuff that I'm listening to right now, which I think has kind of influenced the sound of my upcoming EP. So I mean, there are so many incredible songwriters, but if I were to name 3 where it's like guaranteed you're going to go and like hear some lovely poetry, I would say those 3. And in regards to you finding me, you can find me on amandabrownmusic.com, or you could send me a little DM and say hi on Instagram, Amanda Leah Brown. But all of my socials are on my website. So if you go to amandabrownmusic.com, you'll see it all there. I released an album in 2018 called Dirty Water, and it's on all of the digital music platforms that there are. So check it out, and hope you dig it. Thank you, guys.
Great.
Everyone.
Thanks again, Amanda. And last but not least, Ryan.
Yeah, so everyone's been on a lot of people have brought up the contemporaries, which got me thinking. One writer that I'm obsessed with currently is Mark Kozelek of the Red House Painters and Sun Kill Moon. He's absolutely one of my favorite writers of any time. Also Mark Linkous of Sparkle Horse. Sadly, he died. But he also is a huge influence as far as like a more contemporary writer. And then just to go back further, I guess some of the names that first came to mind for me would be Joni Mitchell, Curtis Mayfield. I love his songs are amazing. And then Leonard Cohen and Townes Van Zandt are also, you know, some of the greatest writers, I think, of songs. So yeah, you can find my music at ryanmartinmusic.net. Also at Ryan Martin Songs. You can follow me on the Instagram and the Facebook, and my records are on Spotify. You can also go to High Moon Records if you want to order a vinyl or a CD. And I just want to say it's been a real pleasure to be here. Thank you, Ryan, for inviting me to come. And it's been great to listen to and to meet everyone. And this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, y'all. Good to meet you. I'm going to follow y'all on Instagram right now.
Yep.
Thanks again, guys. This has been Virtual Songwriter Round, brought to you by Red Panda Recording. Please support the artists that you enjoyed tonight. Everybody stay safe out there, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.